So today I'm going to talk about Asperger traits or Asperger and autistic traits and characteristics, and how they may be linked to misanthropy. That was the topic that I said I was going to talk about a little bit more at length in the previous video. So this, first of all, obviously, I have to say that these are my traits and my characteristics. Many of them are just common in the autistic population, or most of them are. Obviously, they're not always present in every autistic person or in the autistic population at large. Some people have more of these or less of these, more intense, less intense, more visible or less visible, and so on and so forth. So this is not a diagnosis for anyone. Are just specific traits that affect me and that are generally common for autistic people to have. So don't use this as a diagnosis, and if you can relate to many of these, I have quite a list here. Then if you're interested, if you can, you're able, if it's affordable, maybe get yourself tested. Also, I have ADHD, so it may not be the same for everyone again. But anyway, let's start. So the first trait that I have here that is very common, it's one of the first ones ever to be mentioned in almost every video that you can see online about autism, is about sensory sensitivity. So what does this mean? Sensory sensitivity is something that everyone has. This is one of the interesting things about ADHD and autism, is that many characteristics are common in the general population. So yeah, what makes them traits specific to autism or ADHD is not how common they are, but how intense they are and how much they affect your life. So everyone has a sort of sense of sensory sensitivity to most things, right? You have a sensitivity to light, to heat, to the way to touch, to the pressure, and so on and so forth. But what matters is not that they exist in you, but how relevant they are in your life, to the point of being a hindrance or not, how much they annoy you in your current day-to-day life. So in my case, in my sensory sensitivity, for example, I don't like light. I have a problem with light when I'm reading or when I'm outside. Many of my childhood photos are with me with one eye closed like this because of the light. It doesn't need to be bright in the sense that it's really sunny outside. It just needs to be bright. For example, right now it's very cloudy, but even looking outside kind of hurts my eyes. So it doesn't have to do with direct exposure. It can just be clarity, the brightness outside. Another part of sensory sensitivity that is interesting in autistic people is that some of them have a problem with feeling hurt, physically hurt. Not in the way that they don't feel the pain, but they may either not feel it so intensely or feel it very intensely, or to the point on which parents may be confused because a child may fall and be like really hurt, and for example not cry or not make a very big deal out of it, because if the kid is autistic and has this kind of it's not an inhibition, it's the way that they feel things physically may be very different from way that people feel, neurotypical people feel things. So either an hypo or an hyper sensitivity to touch, for example, as with any other sensory stimulus. So this is one thing. And to me, it's light. And I really don't like being hugged, although I do like pressure. So I like to sleep with heavy, how do you call it? Those things here that you can use to cover yourself. I like them heavy because I like pressure. But I don't like hugs. And this obviously has to do with the social component, but Anyway, not all autistics are like this. The kids in my class, um, they don't like to be touched a lot, but they will touch you eventually. Maybe because they're kids. I don't know if that passes. Um, but yeah, again, they're not all the same. So that's one part of sensory sensitivity. Oh, another thing that I have there. Um, I am very squeamish with my feet. No one is allowed to touch my feet, which obviously no one does because that would be weird. But since I was a kid, that I am really squeamish with my feet. And here is the sensitivity to heat and cold. I tiptoe a lot, especially when I'm not wearing anything and just with my socks or bare feet. I tiptoe a lot, probably to avoid the cold of the floor. And because I like the tension that exists in the foot. I don't know if you can see, like the tension that exists when you press your hand against something like this, and you can see that there is pressure and tension. I like that in my feet because when you tiptoe walk, you can feel the pressure at the end of your feet, and I like that. There are kids in my class that do that a lot. I don't know. I'm not completely sure why they do that. I don't know if it's for the same reasons as me. But it's a common thing, I'd just say. So another common thing is a monotonous voice. Monotonous voice is the voice that you're hearing right now. That is not a voice typically made for radio. Why? Because it's an emotionless voice. It's a voice with no soul. It's a voice that is blank. It's sterile. Um, and I have been told before by people who either liked my voice because of the way it sounds, because it's kind of deep and like it's not clean, it's like rusty and deep. And some people like it and have said, wow, cool. Or and others have said like, what? What? Are you angry? Like angry with me? Are you like upset? No, this is just the way I sound. Um, Obviously, this is not a trait that affects every autistic person. This has to do also with emotions and regulations and something like that, which autistic people also have, by the way, a problem often with emotional regulation. And I have that too. And because I have ADHD, ADHD is also a problem with emotional regulation. It has to do with the prefrontal cortex. It has to do with inhibitions and being able to control your thoughts and your inhibitions and your emotions and being able to like resist temptation, let's say. Um, so yeah, I'm reading a book right now about someone who I believe is either a psychologist or some sort of counsel therapist for couples, for couple therapy. And I'm reading a book right now that she wrote about some difficulties that she finds common um, in her clinical practice with couple therapy. And one of the things that she said is that the males, the husbands or the boyfriends or the males of the relationship, the men, usually don't like confrontation. And I found this weird because I don't, it's not that I like confrontation, it's that I don't shy away from it. Um, and she was explaining this. Oh, they usually don't like confrontation because they don't know exactly how to react, and they are kind of afraid that when if they react, that it's going to be too much, and they are afraid of what their spouse, the wife, may think. They're afraid that she's going to get angry, and I understand all of that. Sure, I deal with people too, unfortunately. Um, I don't personally share that problem. I'm also not married, so uh, I don't know. Maybe in the future, um, I will be more careful about starting discussions and all of that. But when I am upset, I make myself know that I'm upset for the sake of the relationship. Because if I'm upset, and in this, I think it goes for everyone, if you're upset and you don't tell your partner, being that your parents or your friends or your wife or husband or whoever it is, especially if they are autistic, they may not know that you are upset, which is another thing. This has to do with something called theory of mind. Theory of mind is the ability that people have. Women are particularly good at this in social situations and emotional situations, women tend to be a lot better than men, with or without Asperger's. They tend to be better than us. They do seem to have a sort of capacity or ability, maybe biological, maybe genetic, maybe from society, maybe environmental, I'm not sure. That seems to grant them an advantage when it comes to understanding what the other person is saying, if they are lying, if they are being honest. Um, Maybe it has to do with motherhood and the kids and stuff like that. But anyway, women tend to be better than men in social and emotional context. So yeah, and Asperger's tend not to be very good at lying, which is something that she mentions too, which is true, I think. I can lie. I don't like doing it because, for obvious reasons, that can generate conflict, and sooner or later it's probably going to be known. And yeah, I tend, if I cannot make mistakes, then I prefer being careful and not making mistakes or try to avoid them. Um, So anyway, that's about the monotonous voice and about the relationships that are just a slight tangent with couples. So the next topic is specific interests and sharing them. So this will probably go into the realm of misanthropy later. This video is probably going to be very long. It's already 11 minutes, so sorry. I'm trying to go a little bit faster. So specific interests and sharing them. So for a very long time, for more than maybe 13, 14 years, I've been very interested in religion. I'm not anymore, nearly as much as I was when I was younger, but I was really interested in studying religions as a whole, with emphasis on Christianity, because I'm from Europe, I'm from Portugal. The Christian hand, let's say, their influence is stronger here. Portugal, last time I checked, it was like 86% Catholic or something like that. So it's one of the most Christian countries where people take it more seriously in Europe. Um, it it's not annoying in any way. People don't make a very big deal out of it. We are secular, but anyway, that's it. So that's one of my pretty specific interests. That is the study of religions, or it was. I still do it from time to time, but not nearly as much. Another one was physics. I had a really big crush on physics for like 8 years. Um, I was in a physics club in high school, even though I didn't have physics class. So I was with a friend in a physics club, even though I didn't have physics class. And I knew more at that time. I'm proud to say. I knew more about physics than the kids that were in physics, because physics was a priority at that time, was something that I really liked. So that's one of the two of my specific interests. I have others. For example, I like animals a lot. I know many different species. My favorite species of animals is the snow leopard. I can explain why too. I mean, they have many different characteristics, but the video is already long enough. Maybe if you want, I can tell you why in the comments, why the snow leopard. Now, the problem of sharing them, that's another thing. This is all good and well to have these likings, these specific, particular things that you like. The problem with particularity is that it's rare. It's not very often that you will find people that are as in love with snow leopards, or with physics, or with religions, or with politics, specifically American politics. That is one of my topics of interest too. Or with history, or with philosophy, or with neuroscience. I'm looking at my shelf. Yeah, it's one of the problems of being very selective is that you don't find many people to talk with um, these topics about. So the only person really that I talk about these topics is Sebastian. That is the person that was here a few years ago in this channel. If you go a few videos down, you'll probably find him. And he has very particular interests too. He probably is somewhere on the spectrum too. I believe he has ADHD too, so we have many things in common, including our liking for animals, and he knows a lot of stuff. He knows a lot of weird stuff, like me. His special interest is more on the holistic and spiritual and yogas and that kind of thing. Not really my thing, but it's really interesting to have someone that knows a lot about it that can teach you. And the fact that he knows a lot about other things and interesting facts and all of that, like, oh, the Marianas Trench is so deep that if you put the Mount Everest on it, inside the Marianas Trench, it's still 1 kilometer to the surface. So Marianas Trench is deeper than the Mount Everest is tall by 1 kilometer. So the Mount Everest is like 8 kilometers and something, and the Marianas Trench I think is 9 something or 10. But anyway, like small cool facts about animals, about physics, about the holistic and spiritual and all of that. That's specific interests, but it has the problem that you can talk to people usually about them, which kind of sucks. But anyway, that's one thing that we'll probably go into the misanthropy later. Rigid way of thinking, brackets, my way. Yeah, so I can be very rigid in the way I think, not in the sense that I have to be right, although I do think I'm right most times, as anyone probably does. But when I'm wrong, I usually tend to be honest about it, and or at least admit, or not, or at least stop fighting a topic that I know that I realized that I was wrong about. If the topic has to do with my special interests, I have to say I am not very. It's not very common that I'm wrong about the things that I like the most, um, because I've invested a really long time on them, and yeah, it's common that I'm probably more correct about them than you if they are not your specific special interests. Um, so more examples of rigid way of thinking. So my room has to be exactly how I left it. No one enters my room without my permission. No one touches my things without my permission. Um, I am very careful with the way I park my car. For example, I'm very methodical and very like with minutia, And if I think that the car should be 10 centimeters ahead, I will put it 10 centimeters ahead. This probably has to do with more of almost OCD, which I've been told that I probably have some characteristics of it too, but who knows? Obsessive compulsion disorder. Um, More. Things that I leave are the things that are mine. No one touches them. As I said, my way of thinking of rigidity also with autistic people has to do often with being literal in the way of thinking. So this also happens to me a lot. Being literal, for example, if someone says a joke or says something that I find a bit stranger than usual, um, I am usually always running probabilities in my head. Like, how likely is this that this person is serious about what they're saying? How likely is it that they are joking? How likely is it um, that they actually mean what they said, or that it's a metaphor, or it's a joke, or it's something like that? It's part of a social context or whatever. So it's not intuitive. It's something that I have to consciously make an effort to try to understand and to make sure that, oh, this person is not serious. Okay, so they're not mad at me. They're just making a joke. Um, which can be annoying, especially if people don't make an effort to being more concise and objective. And I have this criticism a lot from people to from me to people. That is, for example, and this has to do probably with the book that I'm reading about counsel therapy with Asperger's and non-Asperger's and all of that, or autistic people not autistic. That is on the subject of love, for example, or of romantic interest. It bothers me so much that people aren't just honest about the things that about their feelings for the other person. that that social game of, oh, I'm going to look at this person for like a second or two, and I'm going to go by them and pass them by, and I'm going to look or speak or walk or talk in a particular way, and as if like, and not to blame women, but women usually do this more than men, particularly because women are the ones that choose um, which genes are passed to the next generation. So women are the ones who usually choose their mates. They are the ones who choose men. Men also, of course, have interest in women and can choose them by going, talk to them, and all of that. But there are actually statistics that say that, for example, when a man walks from being sit down on a bar to going to talk to a woman, usually that woman has already signaled some sort of interest in that particular man. So although it looks like that it's the man that usually starts the social conversation and the romantic thing, um, I think it was overwhelmingly women that actually started and this is a study I can show you, that started the interest and that gave the signals for the men to to interact with them. So this is one thing that I don't like, by the way, because I don't understand people that well. I don't understand what they mean. I'm always very confused what they mean. If they are serious, if that was a wink, if it was like a friendly wink, if that was like someone calling you like cute or something, if it's just a friendly way of saying hello, or if it's just something more, you know. So it's very confusing. I don't have any particular interest about it too, either. Which is another thing, another topic that has to do with hypo or hypersexuality. I'm hyposexual, I guess. Disclosure. I don't have a lot of interest in sexuality on women, really. It's not that I'm asexual. I'm not. I have um, some interest, let's say, in women, but it's not to the degree of like looking for a girlfriend or something like that, or being interested in finding a partner or any of that. This is another thing that autistic people usually have. That is either hyposexuality or hypersexuality. They either need the constant need for to be with someone, and they can't be alone, and they feel so bad when they're not accompanied by someone else or something like that. Or they are like more like me, um, and they really don't care. They don't really show uh, any symptoms of being like depressed or, oh my god, I need some. No, really don't care, or that aren't very interested in that at all. So I'm really like uh, going on tangents here because I'm thinking about other things. New ideas come to mind when I'm talking about a specific topic. So another one is the need for instructions on social behavior, as I was saying, with the part of flirting and all of that. Um, these are rules that, and by the way, this also comes from other studies in psychology. Men have a really hard time with or without Asperger's. So for women in the audience, um, it's common for women to assume, and these I'm not just saying this; these are from studies. This is from studies. For women to assume that men understood the hints that they sent them, when in reality, men are very, really, specifically autistic men, have really hard time understanding hints. And this can be for many reasons. First, we don't communicate like that. We are more direct than women are in our way of thinking, in our way of communicating with one another. So, subtle hints like looking at a man for a slightly longer period of time, or the way that they look at a man, or a wink, as I said, even something more visible, like a wink, or the way they talk, or voice, or something like that, may not be at all explicit to a man. And for some reason, women usually think that they made themselves clear, and then get upset if a man doesn't go there and talk to them, because they think that they were clear enough. But in reality, there are statistics that simply say the man didn't understand what you were saying. The man didn't understand that wink, or that face, or the eye contact meant that they were interested in you, and that were expecting you to make the first move. So women in the audience that are looking for a partner or whatever, be more specific, and men too, by the way. This goes for both sides. Be more, I don't know, man. Don't take advice from me. This is just like one thing that kind of bothers me, is that people are not very clear in their intentions. But anyway, do whatever you want. Don't take advice from me. I don't have experience on that front anyway. Um, Another thing that has to do with autistic or Asperger characteristics. Few friends. Again, this has to do with probably all the things that I've mentioned before. Problems with social behavior, eye contact, voice, problems with being touched, problems with sensitivity, voice, lack of interest in people, overwhelming with light or noise, sound, so not going to concerts, which is a social event, or not going to parties or discos, or avoiding that. So all of this can conclude on someone having fewer friends, but usually good friends. They may be few, but they are good, and they are usually like you, at least from my experience. Um, and this comes again to the point of whether you really need people or not in your life. I tend to go to the side of not needing people in my life. I'm quite happy in solitude, because being in solitude and being in feeling alone are completely different things. I really like my solitude. I knew a person that I spent the holidays with, a friend that I made over the holidays, um, and she hated being alone. Like, she hated the rain. She hated being alone. She always had to be talking with someone and all of that. Yet she considered herself introverted, which I found very funny. I'm not like that at all. I know that there are people like that, but I'm not like that. Um, but yeah, make your friends, choose them well. Be careful with who you make friendships with. Make sure that they are at least similar to you. Otherwise, they may invite you to places that you don't want to go, or do things that you don't want to go. By the way, another tangent is peer pressure. It's not there, but I reminded myself now. Autistic people tend to be, from what I've heard, and I can corroborate that, kind of immune to peer pressure, which is funny. Um, I am immune, kind of, pretty much immune to peer pressure. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I never did. I may have tried maybe half. I think all I've smoked in my 25 years is probably half a cigarette. So, like this. I didn't like it. Um, I have tried weed, but even less than that, maybe like half, like this. So, yeah, I don't participate, and I could have. I had friends that did that. I don't smoke, I don't drink. Drink, I don't like. There was only one time, like when I was 17 or 18, at a friend's party. It was his birthday, so we went out, and yeah, I drank a few shots, and I got kind of drunk, but not really. I was very conscious, very aware of things. Maybe two more shots and I wouldn't be, but yeah, I stopped there. And it was kind of a bad experience with vomiting and all of that. So yeah, um, yeah, peer pressure is something that fortunately I am kind of immune to, and many autistic people seem to be immune to it. So now another thing is high social demands from others, and I have high in quotation marks because I don't think they're high at all, but they have given me trouble, particularly this summer with the person that I spoke about previously. Um, so when you tell me, for example, what are high demands? What do I mean by that with social people with in the social contract and with social behavior? Um, what do I demand that is high, a high demand from others? If you tell me that we're going out at 9, or that I should be at a specific place to play snooker or anything else at 9:30, I will be there at 9:30, and so should you. It's not 9:30, it's not 9:45, it's not 10, it's 9:30, because then I will be waiting and then I will be annoyed and it's going to suck and all of that. So these high demands are only high because of my experience with people not really following them or not really caring or thinking that it's okay. And I've heard from people like, oh, when people say 9:30, they actually mean 10. Then say 10. If you don't mean what you say, how the hell am I supposed to know? It's 9:30, it's 9:30, it's not 10:50, it's not 10, it's not 9:50, not 9:40, it's 9:30. So that's one of the things of high demand um, that kind of bothers me with people, is that they don't follow the things that they say, or that they say things again that they don't mean, and they're not really sure why they do that and all of that. Um, and that's one of the things. So be if you have an autistic friend, be concise, be specific, be objective, and be there on time. At least on the time that you um, said that you were going to be. Another topic is tiptoe walking, which I've said before. I do that a lot. I tiptoe walk a lot. As I said, particularly when I'm not wearing socks, sorry, when I'm not wearing anything other than socks, so shoes. But I've already talked about that. The other is silence and isolation. So this has to do with something that I've already talked about too: silence and isolation. I like being in my silence. I like listening to music. I like being isolated in the sense of um, not being pressured with being with anyone else. Because if you have someone at home and you're not alone, then you are always expecting that person to say something or to do something, or to invite you to do something. Um, so you're not all ever like completely free from a potential social activity. So I like being isolated in the sense of no one is home but myself. There are no possibilities of me wanting to read and someone like come knocking at my door asking me out or anything. No, I like my time spent the way that I want, my way, all of that. Um, Another one is awkwardness. What do I mean by that? And that has to do obviously with social activities and social behavior. Um, Awkwardness, brackets, for example, eye contact. Eye contact is one of the things that I really, really do not like doing. Uh, I'm not shy, not particularly shy at all. Like I've tested myself on this. I've been in social situations not making eye contact and asking myself like, am I like uncomfortable? Am I shy? Am I being do I feel like um bad inside, like I shouldn't be here, or some sort of anxiety? No, like no, that's not it. So I know pretty much that my lack of eye contact isn't due to shyness or some sort of social anxiety. No, I simply don't like it. I don't like eye contact. It makes me very uncomfortable and annoys me. And yeah, I really don't like doing it. And I hate people that like press on that shit, like that look at you like this, almost like trying to make you look at them. It's really annoying. Don't do that to autistic people. Don't force them to look at you if they don't want to. Um, so yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is the voice that I've already talked at the beginning. That has to do with this monotone voice. Not all of it, just something that I do. Um, Another one is facial expressions. Facial expressions is something very interesting because I don't make a lot of I don't have many facial expressions. My face is usually blank. To the point when people have asked me if I found some joke funny or not because I wasn't laughing. It wasn't that I didn't find it funny. It was that it was like it wasn't funny enough for me to express it. It's like I find it internally funny. I don't need to express it. Um, this has happened before. Like, oh, some person just told me, oh, it was a joke because they thought that I was like annoyed or that I had taken it personally or something. I was like, sure, I know it was a joke. I'm not judging you. Like my lack of my face with lack of emotion doesn't mean that I'm judging you. It just means that I don't make many. I don't have many emotions. So I will look 30 when I'm 70 because I will not have like my face will be new. um, Another thing is posture. Uh, my posture I think is okay. I, by when I started making videos, I noticed that my head like is slightly tilted to one side. That's why sometimes I try to put it. I think it's slightly tilted to the left. I'm not sure. Um, but that's sure like 1 or 2 degrees, maybe less. Um, the way I walk, I think, is also fine, even though I tiptoe walk. But many autistic people do have problems with their posture, um, with their back, with their feet, with their hands, with the way they walk and all of that, with their hips. I don't think I have that, but that's what I think. This video is already really long, like 37 minutes long. Um, I will probably fuck it. Let's talk about misanthropy. Um, so misanthropy, how does it correlate with the things that I've been talking about? Um, it does at many points. It does. My lack of interest in people comes a lot of it from my interests not aligning with the interests of others. So my specific interests are not the interests of everyone else. I don't like talking about football. I don't like talking about celebrities. I don't watch reality TV. I don't care about many of the series that people, for some reason, find popular. I don't like gossip. I don't like drinking. I don't like smoking. I don't. So um, when your interests are strict, so are the people that you can talk to with about those topics. So another part is about the shallowness of people. Um, so I find people generally shallow in the things that they like, the things that they find important in life. Um, I don't know if I've talked about this before or not. Like there was in my second year of college, I was talking to a friend at break, and we were talking about life and death and philosophy and God and the possibility of afterlife and all of that. Um, and some girl just passed by and asked us, "Are you really talking about that? Like, what's the interest of that?" Like, almost in a very judgmental, like, who cares about that? As if these aren't questions that people have been asking and wondering for thousands of years, as if this is just not nonsense. Um, and they prefer to talk about things that I don't like, as I said, like parties and drinking and, you know. So that's one of the things that really probably the one of the things that most separates me from people is that our interests are simply too different to conciliate. Another thing that I have here is that people disappoint, and this is a really big thing too. So people disappoint a lot and often out of nowhere. And you think that you can trust someone and you can't, and you make plans with someone and they don't come, and they don't treat you with the respect that you want, that you demand from simply being a friend of theirs. They don't care, and that pisses me off. And it happens a lot, and it has happened to me before, and I have some experience with that. It happened to me this summer holidays with that person, that girl that I was talking about before. Um, so yeah, people just disappoint out of nowhere. You have a friend, for example, for 4 or 5 years since high school, and in the first year of college, they lose themselves in parties and booze and girls and all of that. And you ask them for a favor, and they either don't help you, or they help you, but then forget about you. So, yeah, people disappoint. Don't trust people. um, I have here the lack of friendships that come from not having compatible interests. Difficulties with communication is something that I've talked about before, with literalism, the part of being a rational person, autistic, that thinks that you're saying there it's raining cats and dogs, you kind of believe that it's raining cats and dogs. The lack of theory of mind, of the problems with understanding what the other person is thinking, if they're being serious, if they're not, if they're upset, if they're angry, why they are upset, why they are angry. Um, is it something you did? Is it something at work? Do they want to talk about it? Which is another thing, because autistics have a problem usually with emotions and understanding them and wanting to care for them. And yeah, they tend to be more rational and reasonable. At least I try to be. Um, and I think that's it for this video. So these are some topics that come from both the perspective of traits in autistic people like myself. These are my traits, although they are visible in many autistics. These are my traits, and some problems um, that they may come from these topics, from these traits, with other people. That may lead to misanthropy, may lead to nihilism and depression and all of that. So yeah, be kind to your autistic friends. Sorry about the image quality, like it's getting really bright because there's not a lot of light here. So yeah, be kind to your autistic friends, and yeah, make autistic friends. By the way, they will help you in more ways than you probably can know. They're fun. They have a lot of things that will help you, like to interesting topics and all of that shit. So yeah, I think that's it. Ciao.